This week for breakfast, we're gonna have smoothies. We have a lot of frozen fruit in the freezers. Today, I'm gonna share one of my favorites. This is my go-to tropical green smoothie. The must-haves for me is banana, kale, pineapple, and I have to have either almond or coconut milk or a combination of the two. If you don't have almond milk, you can use almonds and water. Banana, I prefer frozen. Kale, my first choice would be frozen. I think I have frozen kale, but it's so far down in the freezer that I'm not even accessing it. So I'm just using some of the fresh, and I like to keep frozen pineapple specifically for smoothies. When I first started making this years ago, I think I do equal parts kale and pineapple. Now I can do more kale and less pineapple. And the pineapple and the banana do add sweetness. If I have avocado, I like to add avocado. This is my favorite way to consume flax. This has to stay in the refrigerator. Sometimes I want protein powder, fiber, collagen, chia seeds, basil seeds. Today I think I'm gonna put a little bit of everything. Kind of depends on how I'm feeling, how hungry I am, how long I want it to hold me over. I prefer to use the water in the summertime or in the afternoon, and I prefer to use the milk if I'm making a breakfast smoothie. Today I'm gonna use about a half a cup of pineapple. Gonna blend it all up. 2 minutes later, breakfast is done, and I like it thick. It's creamy. I like to squirt a little bit of extra flax oil, and I like to sprinkle with basil seeds. Here's the presentation. I love the little bit of oil on the top. It gives me an opportunity to get some extra oil in, and it reminds me of a luxurious health spa that I can have here at home. Let's give it a taste. So, this is so refreshing. It's so creamy and delicious and tropical. It feels like I'm having dessert. Tonight for dinner, we are gonna have sausage, kale, and pasta with a pesto that expired a couple of days ago. I need to use it. I have a half a block of cream cheese. We're probably only gonna use an ounce or two, some garlic powder, salt, and onion, some of this non-dairy oats and seeds. We're gonna use black bean spaghetti, kale, sun-dried tomato, and sausage. This is not smoked sausage. We're gonna take this and we're gonna turn it into dinner. Let's slice these up real quick. Okay, so we do not want to saute these. We still want them kind of crispy. So a minute or so is fine. And we're gonna add it to the sausage. And we are gonna add our kale. Now this has not been seasoned to the kale. We are gonna add some garlic powder. I'm also gonna add some salt and pepper. We're gonna add some sun-dried tomatoes. Give it a toss. Seed milk made a big difference in the color. We have a wonderful creamy sauce. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off and let it rest while we boil the pasta real quick, and then we'll throw everything together. I am gonna toast a few pine nuts because I have pine nuts in the freezer, and I think that would just be a wonderful complement to this dish. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab those. Let's boil this black bean spaghetti. The water's already boiling. I added a little bit of salt. Boil for 5 minutes. Did roast some fresh pine nuts, and I took out some freeze-dried basil because I thought these would be a nice topper. Back to the sauce. This is what the sauce looks like after it's rested while we cook the pasta. I want to turn this back on, and I want to add a couple of things to this. I want to make sure that we have enough sauce to cover our pasta. So I want to add a touch of extra virgin olive oil. Let's add our black bean pasta, toss it into the sauce, add our sausage and onions. We're gonna cover and let this rest for maybe 5 minutes. This black bean pasta has 45 grams of protein alone. I wanted to show you how beautiful this is. This is a complete meal in and of itself with the kale and the cashews and the black beans and the onions. There's so much complex flavor in here. If you want to serve it the way I made it tonight with the sausage, this is what it looks like all plated up. This is really good. It's a winner. My daughter-in-law is making tacos for dinner. We pulled ground meat and frozen tortillas out of the freezer, pulled this out of the pantry, and taco seasoning. Simple and easy. Dinner tonight, tacos. This is some really good taco sauce from Trader Joe's, and my sweet daughter-in-law cooked. It's gonna be so good. Tonight, we need dinner super fast, like 5-minute fast. We're gonna use extra tortillas that we had from the tacos last night, put them in the air fryer for 3 minutes. They become crispy. Perfect thin crust for pizzas. We have this pepperoni that needs to be used. We have the half open pizza marinara sauce, mozzarella cheese, and then this bacon and sausage that's freeze dried. Add pizza sauce. Top with fresh greens, serve with a side salad. Dinner is served. We have pepperoni pizza, kale salad with some fresh apple. Can't beat a 6-minute dinner. Tonight for dinner, we are gonna have beef stroganoff in the Instapot. We're gonna use up 2 of these packages of cubed roast beef that I had gotten in a party platter in June of 2023, and they desperately need to be used up. So I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna use that as the protein. Then this onion soup mix, I had 2 in here. They really need to be used up. I put the first one in here. The second one's gonna go in here. These mushrooms have been sitting in the fridge. They still look good. We have half a container of sour cream that needs to be used up. About 1/3 of this heavy whipping cream that needs to be used up. Now I don't have as much sour cream as I'd like, and I don't have quite as much whipping cream as I like, but I had this cheese in the freezer, and so I thought this one would be a good one to use. And if you don't have this, just use cream cheese. Some cornstarch in case we're gonna need to thicken it up. Some egg noodles, then garlic powder, freeze-dried basil, thyme, parsley, Worcestershire sauce, and a little bit of red wine. I wanna dissolve this, but I only want 1 cup. This meat is still frozen. I just took it out of the freezer, and that's okay. We're just gonna take advantage of the ice and the moisture that's in the meat. That'll be enough that we won't have to add anything else besides this 1 cup of water into the Instapot. Now this beef is already cooked. It's roast beef, not a typical beef that you would use for stroganoff, but we're gonna make it work. So because this is already cubed, we don't have to cut it. Now there is some natural guess whatever roast beef is seasoned with. With that being said, we're still gonna add our own seasoning on top of that. Teaspoon of Cajun seasoning, about a teaspoon of garlic powder, some Worcestershire sauce. I don't measure. We're gonna do some basil, probably about a teaspoon, some thyme, and parsley. I just gave this a quick toss. I don't think we need the second pack of this. I think 1 pack is gonna be plenty. I do wanna add a little bit of red wine. You can add red wine to this, or you can add red wine to the meat. And I'm only gonna do 1, 2. Turn the Instapot on saute. I did put a drizzle of avocado oil in here. These are still cold. We're gonna let them warm up to room temperature. 1 piece of beef, so that way we can tell when it gets hot. You can hear it sizzling. We're gonna go ahead and add our mushrooms. Once the mushrooms begin to release a lot of liquid and break down, you can go ahead and add all the beef. Well, remember, this is still frozen. So it's a couple of minutes later. The meat is defrosting, but it's not brown. If I wanted it to brown, it would probably take another 5 minutes or so. I do not want to wait that long. Doesn't matter to me if there's color to it or not, especially because this is roast beef and it's going to give the appearance that it was browned even though it wasn't. This is the rest of the seasoning that we rubbed the meat with. I'm going to take it and add it to this Lipton onion soup mix. We're adding a tad over 1 cup of liquid, but if you take into account that there's a lot of dehydrated onions in here, it's probably a true cup, which is what Instapot recommends. There is some ice left in this meat because it's not completely thawed out. Cover, seal, take it off of saute, and we are gonna pressure cook this for 4 minutes. The roast beef is pre-cooked and it's gonna continue to cook. Oops, I didn't press start. There we go. So for starters, the roast beef is pre-cooked and I like to let things release naturally. I'm gonna get these dishes cleaned up. I am gonna cook this pasta on the stove. Been 24 minutes. The pressure has released naturally. Let's open it up and see what it looks like. The first thing I want to do is stick a fork in one of those cubes of meat to see how tender it is. Okay, there's so much steam, I'm not sure if the camera's going to pick this up or not, but this is perfect. They're tender and they're soft, but they still held together. This is a 16-ounce container and it is half full, so there's about 8 ounces in there. We're gonna open up this cheese. I thought I was gonna put these on a charcuterie board for the holidays, and I ended up using other types of cheese. I have a couple of more of these. Let me show you what the gravy looks like right now. It's not super thin and it's not super thick. This is room temperature. This was in the freezer, not the refrigerator. So it's defrosted, but it's still cold. I'm gonna take a little bit of this gravy and I'm gonna add it to the sour cream. Dissolve it this way, then we'll add it back to the pot. Add the sour cream. Give it a quick stir. It's looking really good. Okay, now we're gonna take this cheese and I'm gonna break it up in crumbles. Right now the pot is off. Now we're gonna give this a quick stir. This looks so good. The that we do not even need to add this whipping cream. So this whipping cream is gonna go back in the fridge for something else. I have half a bag of corn on the cob that needs to be used up, so that's what we're gonna have as a side. Now we're gonna add the pasta. Now this is 1/2 of the bag. I'll add more, or we might use some to put on the bottom of our plates. Give it a gentle toss. We just wanna fold the pasta in. This smells so good, y'all. So I used half the noodles in the sauce, and then I reserved the other half to put at the bottom of each plate. If you want a darker color to your sauce, you could add some kitchen bouquet at the end, garnish with some parsley. Okay, let's give it a taste. Try this meat first. All right, let's give this a try. Y'all, this is some good stuff. Less than 30 minutes. This is fabulous. Thank y'all for helping me out. As of right now, pepper steak is the winner, so pepper steak it is. This was a 2.5 pound round steak. This is the bone that was left. Even though we're not gonna eat this bone, we are gonna put it back in here and we are gonna cook it because there's a lot of good nutrition that comes from the bones if it's a healthy source of protein. The ingredients are cane vinegar, onions, sugar, tomato paste, sea salt, peppers, raisins, ginger, mango concentrate, cloves, thyme, garlic, black pepper, and orange peel. If I did not have this, I would be using a little bit of red wine vinegar or apple cider vinegar and a little bit of sugar in place of this. This is some good stuff. You could probably find that on Amazon, but it might be more expensive on Amazon. Worcestershire sauce, just a couple of dashes. Coconut amino. We're gonna put a tablespoon of this chili crunch. Actually, we're gonna put 2. Now I'm gonna grab a glove and we're gonna mix this up. Now that we've put all the wet ingredients, we're gonna add the dry ingredients. A tablespoon of Cajun seasoning, tablespoon of garlic powder, maybe 2 tablespoons. About a 1/2 teaspoon of basil, a 1/2 teaspoon of thyme, maybe a teaspoon. Season according to your personal taste preference. The most important part is just to get this marinating in the refrigerator. Parsley is our favorite. This is dried parsley. Give this a stir. All right, we're gonna cover this, put it in the fridge, and I'll pull it out tomorrow evening. Take the pepper steak out of the fridge about an hour before you're ready to cook. I like to take mine and lay it across a rack so the extra drippings can fall to the bottom and let it sit for about an hour before I cook. Our pepper steak has been out of the fridge for about an hour. It is ready to go. This is the bowl that it marinated in, and to that I'm gonna add some red wine. Maybe a 1/4 of a cup. Plus I have onions and they're sliced differently. Some are thin and some are thick because I want some crunchy and some soft. 1 carrot for color. We have to have bell pepper in pepper steak, but I do like to limit nightshades. So I took out some frozen red pepper. I'm not exactly sure how much we're gonna use. I like to add enough for color, but the least amount possible. 1 can of bean sprouts. This is the only thing I ever cook that I use bean sprouts in a can. And then I keep ginger frozen in the freezer for nights like this. So let's get started. We have half of the meat in the pan. Brown it for about 3 minutes on each side. And then we're gonna take it out and repeat with the second half. When you take the first half of the meat out of the pot, go ahead and cover it and let it rest while the rest of the meat continues to cook. And I decided I wanna add some of my fermented garlic honey to this. I use this in almost everything. It's so versatile and great for you. So that's just the rest of the marinade that the meat was in, a little bit of red wine and the fermented garlic honey. 2 minutes on each side. The second batch is done. You can see I cooked that bone. Now we're gonna transfer this to the bowl. I had to do 2 batches because I'm doing over 2 pounds of meat. This is what's left after we remove the meat, and now we're gonna add the onions. Here's my 2 onions, 1 onion per pound of meat, and the carrot. Now I'm gonna add a few peppers, a handful. This is what we have left in the bag. I just added the marinade with the wine. Now we're gonna put the lid on this and we are gonna let it cook for 1 minute. Now we're gonna add our bean sprouts and we are gonna cook for 1 more minute. This time with the lid off. Look at this amazing sauce. The sauce is good. The last thing I'm gonna do is grate some fresh ginger. Well, this is frozen ginger. I'm gonna mix that in. And dinner is ready and served in less than 20 minutes. Delicious pepper steak. All the work went into the marinade last night. Tonight it was just basically heat it up and cook rice. Let's give this a taste. Try the steak. It's tender, so juicy. This is a really good pepper steak. Tonight for dinner, we are making what I call Mississippi soup. This is one of my all-time favorite soups. I've never made it in the Instapot before. I'm very particular about what goes into this soup. We have the uncured boneless ham roast from Seven Sons that needs to be used up because it lost its seal. We're gonna use probably about half of this, maybe a little bit less, and we'll save the rest of this for another meal. We're also gonna use a small onion, 4 frozen Roma tomatoes, frozen corn. We're also gonna use another one of these white creamed corn. We're gonna use some butter beans, some brown sugar. I often substitute coconut sugar, but in this recipe, I like to keep it as close to the original version as I possibly can. Some tomato juice. I need 1 cup of liquid to get the Instapot going. Plus we have frozen green beans that need to be used up. We're gonna use a little bit of olive oil and salt and pepper. Let's get this thing going. We're gonna saute. Get our frozen tomatoes in the pot, drizzle a little olive oil. We're gonna get this small onion cut up, and we are gonna cut up some of this ham. Now we're gonna add our onion. We're gonna let that brown a few minutes while we cut the ham. It's about 3 or 4 minutes later. The juices are starting to flow, but this is taking longer than if I were doing it in a Dutch oven on the stove. I wanna keep this in mind going forward. Some things are worth cooking in the Instapot or a crock pot, and some things are not. I cut the ham roast in half. The tomatoes are cooking down a little bit better. I would say that the Instapot is probably about 5 minutes behind Dutch oven, so it'll take probably about 5 minutes longer to get it started. This is roughly about a pound of ham. The corn is still frozen. The beans are still frozen. All of this has water in it, so we don't need to add a lot of water besides the frozen vegetable. This is the ham juice that I reserved. So I'm gonna take this tomato juice, this is just a half a pint of tomato juice, and I'm gonna go ahead and add to the ham juice. Ended up with 1 1/3 cups. Now that the tomatoes have pretty much broken down and the onions have softened, we're gonna add our brown sugar thick. Now I'm gonna add the ham. If I had a ham bone, which I do at the bottom of my freezer, but if I had an easily accessible ham bone, that would go in here. We're gonna cook this down a few minutes. This soup is gonna be seasoned with salt and pepper only. That's all it needs. And about 2 pinches of salt. These are giant pinches. And some black pepper. We're gonna give that a stir. We're gonna go ahead and add these frozen green beans. Probably about a pound. Finished with this bag. Woohoo! It is so nice to know we are cleaning out the freezer. Okay, I'm gonna let this melt a little bit. The chunks of ice have pretty much melted. And this is about a pound of butter beans. To that, we're gonna add some more salt and pepper. And another layer of pepper. Now we're gonna add the frozen corn from the garden. This is 2 cups. And we are also gonna add our frozen cream style corn. The very first time I ever had this frozen cream style corn was the very first time I had this soup. I first had this soup in Mississippi. That's why I call it my Mississippi soup, at a girlfriend's parents' house. I thought I was eating the most delicious, fresh garden soup I had ever had in my life. And I just could not get over how good it was. And I wanted to know right then and there what was in it, how was it made, and I was first introduced to this cream style corn. If possible, this is one thing I will always have in my freezer specifically for this soup. The vegetables that I originally had in the soup are the vegetables that go into this soup every time. I don't make any substitutions. The only substitution that I'll do is the smoked meat. That's it. All the vegetables are in the pot. Okay, 1 more sprinkle of salt, 1 more sprinkle of pepper. One of the things that amazed me the most about this soup was that it's seasoned with just salt and pepper. This is 1 1/3 cups, and there's probably gonna be about a half a cup of water that's gonna come out of that corn. So let's see if I think this is gonna be enough liquid. It's gonna be close. It is still on saute. This last tube of cream corn is melting. It looks like this could be enough liquid. However, I'm gonna add a little bit more just to be on the safe side. So I'm gonna add another cup of water. I wanna do just water because I don't wanna alter the flavors of this. I would do tomato juice if I had more tomato juice, like fresh tomato juice from the garden. But I don't have that, so I'm gonna go with just plain water. So I just added a cup of water, and now I think this looks good. But we're gonna go ahead and get the lid on, take it off of saute. I'm gonna hit cancel. I'm gonna pressure cook on high for 30 minutes, and then we're gonna let the pressure release naturally. It's been 32 minutes since it's finished cooking. Of course, I got busy doing something else. All right, let's open it up and see what it looks like. It looks just as if I would have made it on this cooktop. So here it is, fresh vegetables in the broth. I love this in the wintertime. Okay, let's give this a taste. I have to let it cool off for a minute.